All right, good enough. And okay. I'm Ed Foley. Most of you know me, Vice President of TAAA. I have got something interesting to share with you tonight, our new arrival and the status of it. But before I start, let me just say something about TAAA that I've observed that is important to this story, and that is that our presence in this city is really well respected. We are out there at schools, at parks. If we're not sharing with students, we're sharing with each other and holding classes, and it is well known in our community. And it's very important to what you're going to see, because this started as a result of our presence in the community. We have recently received an extraordinary gift. You saw Carson, and they're using these meter-sized telescopes to find asteroids. Well, we've got a 0.8 meter that has recently arrived. This telescope that's been gifted to us is a 32-inch Cassegrain made by DFM Engineering. It's not a name I knew, but I'll share with you in a minute who else has these telescopes. It is a research grade telescope. It is a much larger telescope than most of us have at home. It's F-13. It was manufactured in 2018. It has a very large equatorial fork, as you'll see here in a moment. It has a control system that is piggybacked by SkyX, which many of us are familiar with. Currently, it's got the telescope has sitting next to it a control panel, and that control panel, important, it can be 150 feet from the telescope at this moment. That's how long the cabling is. And as you'll see with our plans, that'll be important because we have a building 150 feet away that may make things a little more convenient for us in the future. That's the telescope. And that's Jim Noel. And you can see that it is a substantial instrument. This instrument was gifted to us through a series of steps that started with someone in our community knew of TAAA. The telescope had been bought by a defense contractor. The defense contractor's in Colorado. They bought it to do tracking for the Air Force. They did it to demonstrate their capability to do this, and they didn't get the contract. Whoops. The telescope, since they didn't get the contract, goes into storage at their office building, and it has been there since then with no purpose. The contractor was consolidating offices. They had an office here in Tucson. They had a number of offices in Colorado. They're all centralizing them, and they had a problem. And fortunately, the fellow in logistics here in Tucson was on the team to solve the problem that they needed to get rid of this telescope. It had been used only to demonstrate their capability, and since then, you can see it. Look at the paint job on that. It's a brand new telescope. They had bought this and a dome, an ash dome, a 16.5-foot ash dome, and they spent a little less than $500,000 for the dome in this telescope. The fellow here in Tucson contacted us. They said, hey, how would you like a donated telescope? And then we learned it was 2 tons, 4,100 pounds, and we had to come get it by the end of the month. Well, it's a little hard to pass up a gift of a professional telescope. It's got some challenges, as it's bigger than things that we normally would be moving around our sites. And here's some looks at some challenges. Had to be moved in pieces. Here's the mirror, 32, well, let me say 0.8 meters, as Carson shows some of his telescopes in meters, that's 0.8 meter. We have successfully brought it to Tucson. It is in Cochise County. It's been shrink wrapped, ready to go when we're ready to go with a home for it. It's quite an extraordinary instrument. 11 volunteers from TAAA at their own expense traveled to Colorado, working with a consultant that has been assembling and disassembling these telescopes for his business. We were able to get that thing loaded up. We rented a U-Haul. One of our members, Bob Rose, good man, brought his trailer up and we loaded the dome in his trailer, and we have successfully retrieved these items. Now, it is a very impressive telescope when you're standing next to it. It is a telescope that, because of the operating system using SkyX, members are going to be able to use this. It's not so complicated to operate it. The software is common software. It is a very impressive scope for an amateur club. This is very unusual. You'll see in a moment who else has similar telescopes. It will be located at CAC. There is an area, I'll show you here in a moment, where there is nothing planned for that area. It looks like a good place to place it. And in this organization, we also have a tremendous amount of talent in terms of design and building and contracting and optics that make this telescope have a clear future for us by placing it here at CAC. And we have another large telescope at CAC. Some of you have operated it. Many of you have seen, have been able to experience objects through it. But that 40-inch telescope that we have does take 2 operators to operate it. And that does create some challenges for us all using it. There's a learning curve, and we've got to get 2 people on the telescope to operate it. This one person can operate it. It's a great advantage for us. I've never heard of DFM. They make professional telescopes. Here's some of the locations that also have DFM telescopes. Not only does TAAA have one, but the Adler has one. And well, you can see this list. You will recognize some of these institutions. Here's some more. You'll recognize Whipple Observatory's got one. There's one at Kitt Peak. This is a different kind of telescope than we currently have in our organization. Very exciting that we were given this opportunity because someone in our community knows what we do in the community and are hoping to be able to take the problem that this defense contractor had and turn it into something good in the community here. Okay. Many of you have been to CAC. This is our dark site facility on the east side. It's in Cochise County. Just to give you a quick tour, RV area, general parking area. Here is our 14-inch Celestron in that roll-off roof observatory. Here is our 40-inch Dobsonian on that deck. Next to it is a 9-inch refractor. Wonderful instruments, all very useful. And of course, here's our members out doing what we do with our various sizes. These over here are observatories that have been funded by members. They're now completed. Chris Fold was is on Zoom, I think. Chris, you know that you've got a pad there now. So Chris is bringing his 42 to there. Over here is our two newest additions. This is our learning center. We've got classroom facility here. We've got sleeping rooms. And on this telescope pad, we will soon have 4 telescopes. There's 3 there now in little roll-off observatories. And we'll have a 4th by the end of the year. So it's a wonderful facility available to our members. And let's go to the next slide just to zoom in a little bit. There's the learning center. And over here is a spot where we had nothing designated. And we think that this will be a good place to bring that telescope. Jim, go to the next one. We'll just zoom in on that one little space. You can see that we've got a brush pile there. We think we ought to have a 32-inch, or I'm sorry, 0.8 meter telescope. We got a dome. Now, this defense contractor had bought the telescope and was going to put it into a 16.5-foot ash dome. And it kind of fits in the ash dome, but it is tight. Now, they didn't intend to do anything other than have that thing operate and track satellites or whatever they were going to do with it. So the tight fit wasn't a problem for them. For us, it's a problem because we have a dual mission. As most of you are involved in some sort of outreach, it's what we do. We all want to use our telescopes, but we want to share. And we do an excellent job of sharing, but we've got to have enough room to get some people around the instrument. And so that ash dome really couldn't fit more than 2 people and was just not practical. So we had to bring the ash dome with us. That's the deal. We had to take the telescope and the dome. But once we examined what the dome could mean to us, we have decided too small. And we're going to do what we have done in the past down at the site, and that is build a roll-off roof observatory to house that 32-inch. We've got a team that is working on the design, the construction, and the ultimate installation of the telescope at that site that I just showed you. We have lots of members who have got experience with roll-off roof observatories. We've been out to examine 3 that were selected because they had features that were of great interest to a telescope of this size. This member's observatory with its split rolling roof design, very high ceiling. This turned out to be a design that we think will work very well with this scope. As you saw, the scope is high. If it's parked horizontally, it's 9.5 feet tall. So we need to be able to clear 9.5 feet. And this kind of design with a shutter at that far end to clear the telescope is a design that'll work. We've visited a couple of other observatories that have other design elements that we're going to also incorporate, but we've pretty much settled on a design that is going to be able to accommodate this scope, and we're moving along to define exactly how to get that thing built. This is our current timeline. We're hoping to be in construction in the first quarter. We have this consultant that we had been working with who had agreed if we got this telescope down here safely, he would back up. The consultant that we were working with, his business has been assembling and disassembling DFM telescopes. his passion is outreach. You can imagine what a love fest we had when we met this guy. And up in Colorado, he has sponsored an observatory, helped build an observatory to do outreach at a high school. And when he learned what we did and who we were, he's just all over us. What can I do to help? He's going to come down, and he had agreed to come down gratis to help us reassemble this thing. So tremendous recognition of what this organization does in the community. So we hope to begin construction and get the building set so that we can now bring that contractor down here and help us to reassemble it. Second quarter, we hope to see first light and begin operating the telescope with TAAA members getting trained, putting it in use, seeing how it will work with groups that we bring out there, and get to know it, how it operates, and so on. Now, one of the important things that we have learned about this telescope, the way it is constructed, it gives us the ability to do things with the optics that you would never do with your average everyday telescope. I would never think of changing the optics out on my 11-inch Celestron. I mean, it is what, well, I shouldn't say that. You put a maybe a Hyperstar on it, but you can put a Hyperstar on these. And there are some options that as an organization we may decide to do. That'll be for future. But the idea is to get it up and running, start using it, and see what we can do with this wonderful gift. The wonderful gift, though, comes with a price tag, and that is that we have a dome, but the dome really won't work. So we are going to build a roll-off roof observatory to house it, and we're going to sell the dome. To build the telescope observatory takes lots of steps. It takes clearing and permitting and design drawings and concrete, and it's going to be a not inconsequential cost. It's going to be somewhat offset by the sale of the dome. Now, this dome has never been assembled. It's as close to new in the box as you could. It came in pallets. It was unloaded from the pallets, and it's now in pieces in a storage container down at the Chiricahua Astronomy Complex. But we will ultimately be able to sell it as a never assembled new dome. We're working with the manufacturer now to make sure that we have everything that is needed to put that dome up. And although it originally cost $65,000, we expect to be able to get $25,000 to $30,000 from what we found in the marketplace so far. So it is, though, going to cost us a net of accepting this $500,000 instrument, $50,000 to house it. Now, we don't have $50,000 sitting in the bank just waiting for us to get a gift. So we are going to need some help. And for those of you who may be feeling generous, there are rights available for you to name the telescope, name the building, get recognition inside of the building if you should care to contribute. We have had many projects within this organization over the years, and always have been able to get support for these sorts of things. And I'm sure that as the months go on, that we'll find those funds in order to make this a reality. But you can help us do that, and we would certainly thank you for any support that you're able to give. There are many ways that you can give, and let me just show that on the website we've got the donate button. Anytime you get on the website, You can donate to all those good causes that we've got. And this is the 32-inch Cassegrain project. 32-inch Cassegrain. I think that's what the Shulman is up there at Mount Lemmon is a 32-inch Cassegrain. But ours is under a border 1 sky. It's really crisp down there in Cochise County. You can't even see Phoenix. So maybe second half next year, if you want some follow-up, give us a call. We'll help you out, Carson. Of course, we accept checks, and you can mail them to our post office box. We're using bank-to-bank transfers now using Zelle. And have any of you used Zelle? Yeah, we've got a few. It's just beginning to catch on. Okay. Receiving through Zelle is what we're hoping too. So it works very, very well, and most of the big banks and credit unions allow you to send money by Zelle. You just have to have you set up your account to transmit by Zelle, and you tell it what email address you want to send it to. And our treasurer has set up our accounts to be able to accept Zelle, and we've tested it, and it works. And it's no cost to us, no cost to you. The money just goes. It's a really good way to give. And it gives you a little way to tell what it's for. So if you decide to do that in that little box, say the 32-inch project or the 32-inch Cassegrain project is easier to spell. We're getting to the end of the year. So those of you who have to take required minimum distributions from your IRAs, here is a really good way to both give and to be able to take care of your required minimum distribution. There is a method for broker to our brokerage account at TAAA for you to just send securities. Very, very good way to handle your RMD accounts as a required minimum distribution from an IRA, giving to a qualified charity like us. If you want to give stock, which is also very, very tax efficient, you can just transmit the stock to us. You don't have to sell it. If you sell stock and you have a gain, you have to pay taxes on that. You have less money to give us. Instead, you send the stock over to us. We get the full value. You get the full deduction of all of that value of that stock, and we can sell it as a nonprofit, and there's no capital gains tax for us. If you want to do any of those stock transfers, contact our treasurer, and she'll help you arrange that. We've done some of those already, and it works. Or you can use the pledge form, which is in the back of the room. And you can just pick one up as you leave, and there's all kinds of ways and directions to give. It is a wonderful gift. I think each of you will be really thrilled to be standing there, operating that beast. It looks to be a wonderful instrument that you have to be normally at a university in order to use an instrument of this quality, but TAAA will soon have one just down the road at a very, very dark site at our site in the east. Thank you for listening. We appreciate any support you can give. Any questions about the telescope or the plans? Yes.
What's the timeline?
The cutoff period is when we are finished spending money, which will be months and months and months.
Like for certain deadlines.
Well, we don't really have a cutoff. We will be giving regular reports, Connor, in terms of